Today we are looking at how we can completely synchronize two different Odoo systems, or a model in two different Odoo systems, in just a few minutes. Our initial situation is that we have one system without products, and a second system with a few products. And of course our Zync is already installed. This is where we start. We want to sync products. So we have to get data from an Odoo and map it. It means telling it exactly which fields are to be transferred now and whether they are to be changed in the process, and then of course writing them into Odoo. For this to work, we first have to tell it where to get the data. This is of course in our second system. We will get everything SSL encrypted. We need to know our database name. And we need a username and password, and of course we have to tell it that we are fetching the products. We haven't filtered anything else. That means we fetch all the products. And so we can jump in. We have now fetched all our products, or all fields from the products. And we now want to transfer them to our napper. This doesn't make sense in many ways. We don't need the ID and we don't need the followers. That means I'm doing a quick fix. Put all the mappings in. And that's all I need for now. I haven't selected a model here yet, of course. We also want to create the local Odoo using templates. And that's it. This means that we have now imported all products into our second system in these few seconds with all the information that the system has. In most cases, it doesn't really make sense. But we could say, for example, that we only import exactly the fields that we need. This could be, for example, a name. And as an example, the default code and the list price. In other words, we now do the same thing that we just did with the helper in bulk when I want to map 500 fields. But briefly, so that it is easier to understand, once in manual. That means we have all the intervention options that could be useful in some way. List price. If that were our procedure now, then we could say we want to update prices now because the master data stays the same. To make another use case out of it, so to speak, we can now do the same thing again. We fetch all the data again. We can also speed up the whole process, which has now taken a little while, because we may have mass articles. And we have built in all the things for Odoo connections that make it more human-readable, user-friendly, and faster. So, and now I've imported the same thing again, but only updated exactly the fields we said. In other words, if we want to see that it works, I briefly change the price in my other system. Retrieve the data again briefly. And can now look in this system. I have now synced my chair to 50 euros. because it now has a key that it updates repeatedly. I can now add more fields, add fewer fields, so I can perfectly adjust it to the use case, and we have all synced down. And of course, we can do the same thing the other way around. In other words, we can now just easily say that we write in both systems and the newest one wins. Meaning we make another product. Sync, I call it high. And then we simply turn the game around. And we take from our local Odoo
Button.
map dump and we want our local Odoo template. Because in order to have the same key again and not overwrite or create something, we need our default code as key. And now we just want to overwrite the name as a small proof of concept. And because we've already set it up, we have set up the connection here, which is YXCV. And we can now upload it in our new one where we don't have to do this every time. We can select it. Upload it. Make a quick change, for example, here. There is still the chair. Here it is still open. Sync, hi. Let's go. We grab the data, upload it, have also set a key here so that it updates. And if I update here now, we already have our complete product master, even if it were thousands of data synchronized. But now, of course, you would have to go into details and set filters so that you might not get all the articles, decide what the leading system is, to make sure that when fully synced, it is determined which system is to win. If it is simultaneous, this means there can be a lot more complexity depending on the use case, but in the basics, we could have done that for sell orders now too. Since Odoo to Odoo has the same data structures, it is extra simple here. And we can show it again for all models in a demo. Thank you.